All right, General Zen, Command Sergeant Major Haney, you all ready to get started?
Aloha and welcome. Thank you all for joining us here today in the Tropics Recreation Center and also online with our online audience on Facebook. Thank you for joining us for our town hall today to receive important information about our water delivery situation for Schofield and Wheeler Army Airfield. Without much ado, I will now turn it over to the Commanding General of 25th Infantry Division and U.S. Army, Hawaii. Sir?
All right, thank you very much. I hope everybody there in the room can hear me okay. Sergeant Major, General Zen, can you all give me a thumbs up, please? General Zen, can you all hear me? Okay, thank you. Hey, good afternoon. Appreciate the team pulling this together for a update on our current water supply. In the room there, sitting at the front table, Command Sergeant Major Haney, Brigadier General Zen, our Deputy Commanding General for Operations, Ms. Lori King, our Deputy Garrison Commander, and then Tony there from Department of Public Works. I'm having to come in virtually tonight from New York based on departing the island a few days ago. But an important issue that we wanted to raise for everyone and let you all know what is the current status with respect to water on Schofield and on Wheeler. And so wanted to first articulate what is happening and why. So we have talked previously about our water infrastructure that supports Schofield Barracks and Wheeler Army Airfield. Principally for this discussion, we are concerned about 5 Clearwater water pumps that provide the water both to Schofield and to Wheeler. On Tuesday of this week, we had 2 of those pumps become inoperational, and the DPW team immediately began working to correct the problem. As they were working through the problem, we had another pump that went inoperational, and on Thursday we had 2 of 5 operational pumps. Now, those 2 pumps were able to provide water to all of Schofield and Wheeler with water conservation measures in place, and that is why we were sending out the water conservation measures to allow time for those 2 pumps to sustain what was occurring at Wheeler and on Schofield while we worked to get the remaining 3 pumps back to an operational status. Late yesterday afternoon, early evening, the 4th pump went down for maintenance issues. At this time, we don't know what caused all 4 of those pumps to go down. But currently, as we speak, there is 1 operational water pump that is providing water resources to the installation at Schofield and Wheeler. The team is working diligently on this, and we think we have a way forward. But from a worst case perspective, we are taking actions to prepare in the event that we are unable to restore the requisite pumps. And if that is the case, there is a potential Schofield Barracks and Wheeler Army Airfield could lose water within the next 24 hours. That is a worst case scenario. That is why we have called this meeting today, to explain where we are currently, what we are doing about it, and specifically what are the impacts. So that is our current situation. What are we doing about this right now? We are waiting on an additional pump, which should be on site at Schofield with the requisite piping to support an installation of that 2nd pump. We have also coordinated with the Board of Water and Supply to be able to provide water from Wahiwa. Both of those actions are in the process of being connected or installed in the case of the second water pump. And we should know within the next 3 to 4 hours whether or not we are going to be able to sustain water resources on Schofield Barracks and on Wheeler Army Airfield. We have also put in additional conservation measures in place. You have seen those that have come out on social media. The Command Sergeant Major and Brigadier General Zen and Tony and Lori will be prepared to talk through additional conservation measures. But at my direction, and in order to preserve water for residents and for soldiers in their barracks rooms and key facilities like medical, our PX, our commissary, we have taken the following measures. Effective last night, we have closed administrative buildings. We have turned off water and prohibited using showers in the physical fitness centers. We have discontinued water use at our car washes. There are chiller plants that provide air conditioning back inside of barracks rooms and some of the administrative buildings. Based on the temperature at Schofield, which generally has been, lows have been in the lower 60s, highs have been just under 80. We have turned off the chillers, and we have turned off all yard irrigation, and the post pool has been closed, all in a means to preserve water in residence and in barracks rooms. And also as a means to keep open the PX, the commissary, the physical fitness centers, Desmond Doss, which supports our medical capability, and we're maintaining 2 DFACs dining facilities, one on Wheeler and then Bronco on Schofield. And if that has changed, the Sergeant Major can update that. As you all know, we are on spring break for our schools that are on post. So there has not been a decision made yet, nor has there been a need for a decision yet to make a decision on whether or not schools open on Monday, the 25th of March. But as of right now, schools will remain on schedule to reopen on the 25th of March. There are some additional actions that we have taken. So we have established 14 different water stations across Schofield and Wheeler. Generally, there are 9 of those water stations with soldiers with water buffaloes and hippos that if water is lost or if your pressure in your residence or barracks room does not support you being able to obtain drinking water or water for cooking or for personal hygiene, there is the opportunity to go out to one of these water buffaloes, bring bottles or containers and fill those up and take them back to your residences or back to your barracks room. Those water points should all be established at the completion of this briefing, and we'll show you a map on where those water stations are established. I do know from talking with the Aviation Brigade Commander, all of the water stations on Wheeler at this time are established. We have also activated the Emergency Family Action Center over at the ACS, the Army Community Services building, and they are prepared to provide support to families and to soldiers. I have also prepared our staff to authorize the use of TLA to offset any costs that is incurred by families and soldier members. For an example, if a family loses water and deems that they need to move off post into a local hotel, then we have authorized TLA. Now that TLA really is if in a worst case situation we lose water plus about 24 hours without it, we will activate the authorization for TLA, and the process will be described here in this venue going forward, but similar to when we lost electricity on Schofield and parts of Wheeler. I would also like to bring up in the worst case situation, what we have to be prepared for is what we are told by our DPW team is some areas could begin experiencing lower water pressure and potentially lose water before others. And the one that we are most concerned about right now is residents and barracks over on Wheeler Army Airfield. We anticipate that would be, if we don't fix this problem here in the next 4 hours, and we can't get it remedied in the next 24 hours, that could be the first area that starts to experience decreased water pressure and potentially lose water. So that is what has occurred over the course of the last 72 hours. In my estimation, the last 24 hours really became the most critical and the most urgent when we lost that second water pump. Those are the impacts from the worst case situation, again, which would be losing water with some residents as early as anywhere between 12 and 15 hours, and some residents losing water as late as within 24 hours. And then what we are doing about it, as stated, the Emergency Family Action Center is open now. They will also reopen over the weekend starting tomorrow morning. We'll outline the hours. And then we have taken measures to close down certain facilities and then preserve other facilities that are open. Now, I would highlight that the restaurants in the PX have closed to conserve water, but the PX commissary, Desmond Doss, and physical fitness centers, and then dining facilities, one on Schofield and one on Wheeler, are open. I would reiterate the TLA process that we will execute again if required, and the fact that schools right now scheduled to reopen on the 25th of March, there is no plan currently to close the schools. However, if there is a water outage that prohibits schools from reopening, a decision will be made within the next 48 hours. Okay, I'm gonna pause now, and I'm gonna hand it back over to Command Sergeant Major Haney, General Zen, Lori, and Tony to walk through some of the specifics, go through some of the slides that I have just described, and then afford you all the opportunity to ask any questions. To our DPW team and our garrison team, thank you for working extremely hard for the last 72 hours. We do think we have a resolution, but we have to be patient going forward. And for everyone that this is impacting, again, we are incredibly sorry. We're working to mitigate any impacts and to ensure that water is maintained on Schofield Barracks and Wheeler Army Airfield. So General Zen, Command Sergeant Major Haney, over to you all, and let's walk through the slides and then go out to the outstations, people online or in the room for any questions.
Sir, before we go through the slides, I did want to highlight two things. The first one, this has nothing to do with the quality of water. The water is safe for drinking. This has solely things to do with the pumps that are out and getting the water to distribution points. Secondly, as we talk today, I think there are about 1,000 people online, which is the most that we've had during a town hall. So please continue putting your questions into the chat, and we'll get to them as we go through the briefing. And then lastly, I do appreciate all the leaders. The leaders got a brief update earlier today, so the leaders have information. And if anything needs to get routed up through the system, obviously they can put it in the chat, or if a question needs to be worked through the chain of command, that can get up to the lock, and we can take care of those at any time. I'll get us back on schedule.
Hello, my name is Lori King. I just wanted to reiterate General Evans' point. We are putting some measures in place to get us back up and stable and running, but we are working on the permanent solution too. So while we're working these other issues, we're working the permanent solution. getting a lot of help from our headquarters in ways of equipment and overtime and working through the evenings. So we are committed to coming up with a permanent solution. These things that we're doing now are going to help get us up to a sustainable level so that we can continue to provide the services that we need to provide. Also, with the EFAC opening, it's going to be 07 to 1900, but we will also have a 24-hour hotline. So if you're not there during the day, you are able to call during the evening or overnight if you need something, you have an emergency. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Brigadier General Dave Zinn, Deputy Commanding General for Operations for the 25th. We have a series of slides, and the slides cover 3 points. What is happening and why? What are the impacts? And then what we are doing about it. And if we could go to the next slide, what is happening and why? I think Major General Evans covered this. We had 3 functioning potable water pumps that were sufficient to provide capacity. And earlier this week, 2 of those pumps became inoperable, bringing us down to a single operational pump. And at this point, with 1 pump, the demand is greater than the capacity. And if we could go to the next slide covers impacts. Again, I think Major General Evans covered the impacts. The demand is greater than the capacity. And what we have done is we have implemented some mitigation measures. And those mitigation measures are designed to reduce demand and increase the time to provide maximum time for our DPW team and our engineers to repair additional water pumps to increase that capacity. Next slide. The next slide is entitled, What Are We Doing? The top priority is to increase our pump capacity. That's repair a second and a third pump, again, to increase that capacity. I think Major General Evans talked through the additional points, the different items of mitigation measures we have implemented to conserve water. We have shut down the showers at the physical fitness centers. The physical fitness centers themselves remain open. The on-post car wash has been shut down. The on-post pool, all outdoor irrigation, and we have asked for the local community and all of our tenants in the local community to not use water for anything non-essential, to include irrigation and any outdoor activities. The other point on this slide, Major General Evans talked through temporary living allowance, TLA. We have put plans in place to activate that in the event that water is lost. And as that has not occurred yet, this is just something that we have planned for. That is for soldiers and families. And again, the Emergency Family Assistance Center, EFAC, stood up at Building 690. That's the Army Community Service building located next to the Post Exchange. Next slide. The next slide talks about what we are doing. Firefighting response remains in place and in service. There's been no impact to that. The slide lists Desmond Doss Health Clinic remains open, the commissary, the PX, and physical fitness centers. I would like to ask Command Sergeant Major Haney to talk through our dining facilities.
Sir, there are 2 dining facilities that are continuing to be open. Wings and Bronco, they're continuing to run. And we're actually still running our meal delivery service. The flyers are up around the barracks, and there is a team that's out delivering meals to those that have placed the order on the app. So that is continuing, and that will continue throughout the weekend. We are on a reduced schedule for those 2 dining facilities. It is brunch and dinner, so plan accordingly.
Okay, and I would like to remind the audience that the slides we're briefing off of are posted on our social media on the Garrison Facebook page. And the next slide that we're going to cover is a flow chart for temporary lodging allowance, or TLA. And the flow chart may be difficult to read. Again, the slides are posted. I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Dave Reynolds to talk through this flow chart.
Hey, hi.
The one other comment to remind the audience, Major General Evans has not authorized TLA because we have not lost water in any locations on post. This is a contingency to be prepared in the event that a community does lose water, and it will only be implemented in the event that occurs. So,
Hi, I'm Dave Reynolds, the Chief of Housing. In the event that we do have a complete loss of water and TLA is authorized, the Military Housing Office will send an email to the residents in the affected areas to include the people that are residing in the barracks. The email will explain exactly what you need to do to get reimbursement for the period that you spend in hotels while the water is out. At the end of the issue, when the water is restored and you move back into your homes, what you would end up doing is sending us a copy of your orders, command sponsorship amendments, and any receipts for the motels that you stay in. We will again do a secondary validation that you were in the affected area, and we will send you your TLA memo that you would take to finance for reimbursement. And then finance would also talk about that portion of it.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Mercedes Case. I'm the Deputy Director of the AMPO. So Building 750, Room 103 is our TLA processing section. So if it's authorized and the memos are issued from housing, you'll bring your packet. The documents are listed on the slide. The TLA memo from housing and your receipt, your zero balance receipt with your orders and command sponsorship will get dropped off, and then it will get processed within 5 business days. So as quickly as we can get it to the soldiers. And back to you.
Is that all you had?
I'm
That's
sorry?
what you have, ma'am?
Yes.
So there was a question that came up earlier. If we do put soldiers back on TLA and evacuate the barracks, a soldier that's under 21 can't rent a hotel room by themselves downtown. We do have barracks capabilities that are up at HMR and that are down, that are a little bit farther south, where we do have some ability to absorb some of those soldiers. And so we will have to work through some of that. This is a point where I will need leaders to be involved to identify those people if this case comes up, where we can work through some of those situations. Again, leader involvement is going to have to be throughout this whole entire situation. There's going to be eaches where a soldier might not have a government credit card anymore for whatever reason, and we might have to work through how to make that stuff happen. So I know we're leaning forward on putting up the center this time, but this will allow leaders to prepare ahead of time if we do run out of water.
okay, and next slide. Our last 2 slides show the location of our bulk water distribution, the water points, that many of these have already been established. I expect that all of them will be established prior to the end of this brief. Again, these slides are posted on the Garrison Facebook site, and we certainly appreciate the soldiers that have worked hard to fill the bulk water sources from locations outside of Schofield and Willard and not tap into our water tanks, and then position these to provide support to the community in the event that we do have to execute this contingency. The first slide shows the locations on Schofield Barracks. And next slide. The next slide shows the 5 points that have been established on Wheeler Army Airfield. And I believe that's the last slide that we had to take you through to talk about what is happening and why, what the impacts are, and what we're doing about it. I would like to turn this back over to Major General Evans before we transition to questions. Sir.
Yeah, General Zen, Sergeant Major Laura and Tony, thank you very much. A few points based on what the Command Sergeant Major said and General Zen. Number 1 is on information flow. We will continue to put out the information that we know to be true in a timely fashion, just like we have done on water conservation. What I would ask you all to do, though, is to utilize the chain of command throughout, as the principal information element to be able to understand what is happening, and we will use social media releases like we are doing to supplement what is going out through the chain of command. As stated, just to be clear, TLA has not been authorized. We will consider that if we do in fact lose water, similar to what we discussed previously with the electrical outage, but that has not been authorized at this time. To the Sergeant Major's first point, we have received no reports that the water is unsafe to drink. We have heard nothing that indicates, or any tests that have indicated, that there is any issues with the water. So I would reinforce that currently the assessment remains that the water at Schofield and Wheeler is safe to drink. If there is concerns about the water, please raise that back up through the chain of command or back into the Department of Public Works and the Garrison chain of command, and we will work to test the water and make an assessment in terms of the report to ensure safety of the drinking water there on Schofield and Wheeler. Sergeant Major, back over to you for any other comments, or General Zen, and then we can go out for questions.
So no other comments from me. We did receive a list of questions that I think came in online. And so I'll go down these questions, and we may pass these off to some other of the subject matter experts that are here. The first question is, will this affect schools and CDCs? And so the answer is, we are assessing the impact to schools. So no change has been made to schools, but I think there is the potential that schools would be impacted, and we will continue to assess that through the weekend and then be proactive with information. At this point, there is no impact to the CDCs or child development centers, but there is potential if we do lose water in various communities. Let me hand off to the Sergeant Major.
Much like schools during the power outage, DOE will send out that notification. And I know sometimes it runs a little late into the evening when they send out those notifications if schools are going to go, but it is their responsibility to get those notifications out, and U.S. Army Garrison echoes those as we get those and push those out.
The second question here is about buffaloes and hippos, and so whoever asked this question, thank you for raising this question, because we're using nomenclature that we're familiar with in the Army. So our water buffaloes are water tanks that hold about 500 gallons of water. That's what the buffaloes are. That's sort of the smaller water tanks. And then they have some spigots that distill water. And then the hippos are the larger tanks that carry about 2,500 gallons apiece. All of those elements that we have pre-positioned for bulk water have all been tested by our field sanitation teams and met appropriate safe water standards for the tanks themselves and for consumption of water.
You'll need to bring your own container.
The next question is, where is the water and the water buffaloes coming from? My understanding is it's come from a water point outside of Schofield Barracks and Wheeler Army Airfield. I think one water point is the East Range water point. Another water point is Helamano Reservation, HMR. I believe we also use the water from Fort Shafter. But let me pause to see if there are additional.
No, sir. The East Range and HMR locations are adequate to provide water for the potable distribution at Buffalo and the hippos. So currently no water from Fort Shafter.
One of the questions that came in is, will TLA be provided to single soldiers in the barracks? Yes, if we authorize TLA and we have to do an actual whole movement out of the area because nobody has water, yes, TLA would be authorized to soldiers living in the barracks. I think my only caveat to that is some soldiers that are under the age of 18 might have to live with somebody else, or we might have to figure out a way to rent a room for them if they get out on the economy. So this is for everybody that's in the infected area if we do execute TLA. Additionally, I do have, again, some barracks that are off of the Schofield and Wheeler proper area that if soldiers can't get into lodging, we do have additional rooms that are open in those areas. It's less than 200.
Okay, the next question asks, how long will the tanks last? And we don't have an exact answer on how long the tanks will last. It depends on the rate of consumption. We've implemented mitigation measures to lower the rate of consumption. We have an operational pump. We have a plan to receive additional support from the local community, the Wahiwa Water Board. That would increase the supply to fill the tanks. And then we have plans to repair a pump and get additional pumps operational. I'll pass this over to Laura to see if any other comments on the tanks.
So, no, that's exactly, sir. Right now, it really depends on the consumption rate and the ability to replenish the tanks with the pumps we have. Currently, there are no projected outage for the water as long as we maintain the current pumping rate and have the ability to increase pumping rates with our connections to the BWS, Board of Water Supply, and also a temporary pump that is currently being installed. In fact, I just got a message that we are running the temporary pump currently. So we're looking to replenish the tanks tonight with the temporary pumps and also the BWS connection. So right now, we don't project running the tank dry, essentially, but as long as we maintain our current pump capabilities, we think we'll be okay.
And as early as, what, Monday or Tuesday of next week, we should have, hopefully, the other pump permanently working when we replace that shaft. No promises, but that is, like I said at the beginning of this, our commitment is to try to get to the permanent solution. So we're, like I said, doing this, and this will get us in a good place, and then hopefully Monday or Tuesday we'll have the permanent solution, at least for an additional permanent pump.
Tony, thanks for the positive news. I do want to reemphasize, we're still going to continue with water conservation methods until we get the permanent solution in place, so thank you.
The next question asks, how are you compensating those of us on base? And right now, there is no authorization to provide compensation for anyone in the community. The contingency plans that we've put in place for TLA are in place in the event that one of our communities loses water. The next question asks about flushing toilets. We asked that our tenants, our community members, conserve water and do not use water for any non-essential purposes. There are no restrictions on flushing our toilets. The next question talks about IPC. Are they running sprinklers? Irrigation services from IPC on both Schofield and Wheeler ceased as of this morning. If there is a case where irrigation occurred, that was outside the guidance and the intent, and we're certainly going to take action to stop those non-essential activities in an attempt to conserve water. And we have asked our community members and tenants to not use water for landscape, for outdoors, for any non-essential activity.
If you do happen to see water coming on in your landscaping area, please contact your community centers and let them know so that we can help it. We can all help one another. It could be that somebody missed one. I doubt it.
There was a question, is the water safe to drink? I know we have answered that question. The water is safe to drink. This is about capacity and a reduction in pumps of potable water. The next question is, why are we being asked to conserve? And just to reiterate a couple of points that both Major General Evans and myself made, it's because We have 5 pumps that pump potable water for Schofield Barracks and Wheeler Army Airfield. 2 of those pumps were inoperable and under repair. 2 additional pumps became inoperable this week, and we are down to a single pump, and that is a reduced pumping capacity, and the demand is greater than our ability to pump that water. That's why we have asked the community to conserve water, and why we've implemented the mitigation measures that we've discussed. The next question is, will cases of water be supplied? At this point in time, we are not planning on supplying cases of water. Our assessment is the most efficient means of providing water to the community is the bulk water distribution. Those are the Water Buffalo 500-gallon tanks, and the Hippos, the 2,500-gallon tanks. They can provide water, move out to a water point, refill, and then come back to the community. There's a question, will you be compensating people for water purchased or that they buy? And again, at this point, there is no plan to provide compensation to members of the community. The plan would be that we have bulk water sites established. If a community loses water, that bulk water is available to support in an interim basis. And then if we lose water, that authorization of TLA is what would provide that support to our soldiers and our families. The next question is, when will TLA memos be available if faced when it gets to a point where families cannot live in their homes? And I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Dave Reynolds just to address that.
Yeah, the TLA memos are typically provided at the end of your stay in the hotel. The initial memo that would come out authorizing a service member to reside in a TLA-approved hotel is just that. It's not the one that you would use for reimbursement over at finance. The email that we send would provide the instructions as to how you would get that actual TLA memo for reimbursement. When we send that out, at the end, when everything is corrected and you move back into your home, you'll have receipts showing that the hotel bills have been paid. Those receipts, along with your orders and any amendments that you have, would be sent to the email that we send to you. We would then be able to validate that you were in the affected area and you stayed off post, and issue your actual TLA memo that you would use to take to finance to get reimbursement.
So thank you for that answer. We have additional questions, but we are in the circumstance where the senior commander is off-site. Let me pause and hand it off to Major General Evans to see if he has any comments as we've heard this first round of questions. Sir.
Yeah, General Zinn, thank you very much. And just to reinforce some of the previous points to questions, and I think this will continue to come up, there is not a compensation in place at this time because we have not lost water. However, we do have mechanisms such as an authorization of temporary lodging allowance to offset costs if required. Again, that is not authorized at this point. We are hopeful that the secondary pump and the water coming out of Wahiwa will be able to offset any requirements for any compensation. What we are doing is outlining the process to go forward if, in fact, we do lose water on Schofield and Wheeler. So I just wanted to make sure that we were clear on that. There is not a reason at this time to authorize any temporary lodging allowance, but we are showing you all what the process is in case we get to that point, in a means to be transparent, over communicate, and address any concerns going forward. And then Tony, again, thank you for that update on the alternate pump being established. I would like to highlight one point or question for the team, and Tony, maybe you can highlight this, or Sergeant Major or General Zinn. When will we be able to send out the next update based on an assessment from the connection to the external water sources, as well as the assessment on the alternate pump? When should the community hear an update, and what should they expect in the coming hours?
Sir, so we're constantly monitoring the water tank level, and we can submit reports in order to provide to the community information. But we are monitoring the tank level continuously. We have people at the water treatment plant 24/7 during this crisis, and they have the ability to monitor tanks while they're there.
Sir, I think 1900 is probably a fair time for us to provide an update, if that is satisfactory to you.
Yeah, General Zinn, that is. So for everybody monitoring today, we will have an update at 7 o'clock out on social media and back through the chain of command for everybody's awareness. And then after that, we will continue to provide iterative updates. So plan right now for an update at 7 o'clock p.m., at 11 o'clock p.m., and then again, probably around 5 a.m. in the morning on a status of the water and conservation requirements going forward. So 7 o'clock, 11 p.m., 5 a.m. in the morning.
Sir, we had another question on TLA, and again, I'm going to turn over to Mr. Reynolds. Sir.
Yes, this question was asking if partial TLA will be accepted for those who don't want to move into a TLA-approved hotel. The answer is that the water buffalo should be sufficient to provide your needs in the event that the water is lost temporarily until such time that it can be restored. However, if...
Hey, sir, I'm not sure if you're muted or not, but we're unable to hear the outstation.
Okay, I'm muted now. Can everybody hear me? Okay. I'm not sure what you caught of that, so I'll go ahead and repeat. The question was, will partial TLA be accepted for those of us who don't want to relocate to hotels? The answer is the potable water buffaloes are provided to sustain you temporarily until such time that the water is restored. If, however, the memo comes down authorizing partial TLA for per diem only, that would be communicated in the email coming from the housing office once that decision is made. That can be done if that's what Garrison leadership wants to do.
So thank you. So we are receiving questions from online, and they're transcribing, and then you all can probably see they run the card over. I'm out of questions at this point. Are there additional questions?
Yes, sir. I just want to provide information to be clear on the quality of the water. So a part of the regulation requirement per the Department of Health is we do sample and test the water daily to determine the quality of the water. So waters are treated, chlorinated, fluorinated, sample tested on a daily basis. This is what we do every day, regardless of the situation, and that's what we're continuing to do.
Thank you. And then I did have one correction. Apparently, I said under the age of 18. Under the age of 21 is not allowed to rent a hotel room by themselves. And soldiers can't join the Army under the age of 18. So we'll take a look at if we need to move any single soldiers out of the barracks that are under the age of 18 or under the age of 21. We will figure out on what we're going to do with them to either put them in other barracks or put them with somebody else.
The next question that I received asked, why has it taken so long to fix the pumps? I certainly understand the question. I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Tony Gainey, the director of DPW. But what I will say is that the team here is very focused on doing everything that we can to restore pump capacity and repair additional pumps to increase our ability to provide potable water. Sir.
Yes, sir. Why does it take so long? Time is relative. For its particular situation, the issue with the pumps could be not just the pumps, but the motor. So the pump components is the motor and the pump itself. What we're finding is, first you gotta uninstall the pumps to get it out. Assess it, determine the issue with it, and take corrective actions in terms of repair. We repair our pumps through contracts. We don't have people on staff to repair pumps. It's executed through contracts, through companies that are in the business of repairing pumps. So it really all depends on the issue of the pumps. Sometimes it's the motor that's the issue, so it goes to the motor experts who repair the pumps, and sometimes it's the pumps itself in terms of the pump diaphragm or the pump shaft, and we got to get specific on what is required to repair the pumps. And we take it to the specialty shops or specialty vendors that does these type of work to repair the pumps. So timelines are it could take just a couple days to do it, or it could take a little bit longer to do it than a couple days. It really depends on the issues or the complexity of the problem.
Sir, thank you. We received an additional question on TLA. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Reynolds. Sir.
Okay, this one, what happens if the service member is gone, and can we still get TLA if authorized? And the answer is yes. If the service member is gone, we'll be sending the emails to the primary, but we also have secondary email addresses that we can send an email to, and you would just respond to that email after staying off post by providing us the orders with any type of amendments that you have, and we can go ahead and issue the memo that way.
So these are the last two questions that we'll answer today. The first one is, what does the TLA process look for joint service members? So if we have to go into if we go into TLA up here, we have a bunch of other services that are staying up here on Schofield, Barracks, and Wheeler. How does this process work for the other service members?
So if that happens, I'll notify the other branches of service housing office to let them know that we authorize TLA due to the loss of water. The other branches of service members would then file their documents through their financial offices for their branch of service to get reimbursement.
Sir, thank you for that. And our garrison team has reached out to our joint service partners to inform them of the potential for this, to hopefully jumpstart that process with our joint partners. We don't have control over that. That falls under the other service.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And we'll make sure that we reach out to them if we get to that point.
And the last question that we have is a request for a quick summary, again, for those who tuned in late. And I'd like to pass this back over to Major General Evans to see if he would like to answer that. Sir.
Yeah, General Zinn, thank you. And as a quick summary for those that have tuned in late, and I think we're going to have the slides posted. First, thanks to the entire team that is working this and has been working it throughout the week, and certainly very diligently over the last 24 hours. So as a quick summary, what is happening and why is it happening? So Schofield and Wheeler Army Airfield received water through 5 clear water pumps. Over the course of this past week, 3 of those 5 pumps became inoperational. It is unknown what the reason is. And as of last night, we were operating on 2 pumps, which was able to supply the installation at Schofield and Wheeler. Early in the evening, one of those 2 operational pumps went down. Again, we do not know the reason that it became inoperable. And after looking at the water level over the course of the last 24 hours, we realized that we cannot sustain Schofield and Wheeler on 1 operational pump. So the water conservation measures messaging continues, and the impacts, the worst impact that could happen is within the next 24 hours, residents and soldiers in barracks could lose water on Schofield and Wheeler. What are some of the other impacts are largely mitigation measures. And those mitigation measures are that we have closed administrative buildings, we have turned off showers and restricted shower use in the physical fitness centers. We have turned off the water and prohibited use at car washes, and our 3 chilling plants that provide air conditioning into certain facilities, administrative buildings, barracks, those have been turned off as well, and we have stopped lawn irrigation or sprinkler systems, and the post pool has been closed. We are planning to keep open the PX, although restaurants inside the PX have closed. We are keeping open the commissary, Desmond Doss Medical Facility, dining facilities out of 3rd Brigade on Schofield, and out of the Aviation Brigade on Wheeler. There is not a decision for schools or CDCs not to open on Monday, the 25th of March. As of right now, they will all open. Some other things that we are doing, our DPW team announced during this meeting that a second water pump has been successfully installed. However, it's too early to tell if that will be updated or if that will actually provide the requisite water to Schofield and Wheeler for another 2 hours. So we're going to need a little time to assess the efficiency and the capability of that second pump. What else has been done is we have worked very closely with the civilian authorities in Wahiwa to access water from the water board supply. And again, that will take a few hours to assess if that is going to meet the requirements for Schofield and Wheeler. So we will send out an update around 7 o'clock tonight, providing the status of the pump and the additional water coming in to provide a projection for the way ahead. So water remains available. We think we have the requisite mitigation measures in place to be able to offset the other pumps that are currently inoperable. We have established 14 water stations with soldiers manning Army-capable water resupply mechanisms. You may know them as hippos or water buffaloes, and you can bring containers and fill up water directly from those. There are 5 of those locations on Wheeler, and there are 9 of those locations on Schofield, and the locations are posted on Facebook online, and we'll disseminate those through the chain of command. I would also highlight that we have not authorized any temporary lodging allowance at this time. We have outlined the process if there would be an authorization necessitated by the loss of water on Wheeler or Schofield, just to ensure everybody is aware of the process. And then separately, our Emergency Family Action Center has been activated and is open at this time, and it will open again to tomorrow morning. So generally, that is what we are executing. That is our current update. We appreciate everyone's patience. I would encourage you all to use the chain of command. The chain of command is the principal source for information, and anything coming out online through social media or through IPC is additive to what the chain of command is putting out to soldiers and their families. And then finally, a great point by the Sergeant Major up front, the water that we are receiving onto Schofield and Wheeler is safe to drink. We have had no reports of unsafe drinking water. And just to reiterate, I wanted to end on that note. Again, thank you everyone for your patience. Thank you to our soldiers and the DPW team that have activated various contingency responses. We will provide an update tonight at 7. We'll provide another update tonight at 11, and then another update tomorrow at 5 o'clock in the morning. And then we'll see where we stand for additional updates to the water situation that we're working through currently. I'll stand by for any final thoughts or questions, and back over to the team there with General Zinn and Command Sergeant Major Haney.
The only thing I have to add to that, sir, is the water points are currently open, and if people want to lean forward, they can start going out there and filling stuff up. I also think it will help with conservation if they're filling up water from the water points. But those water points are open and operational for all those that want to go out and start using them.
Sir, as I look around the room here, I don't see any additional comments. I'm going to turn this back over to Mr. Black.
We do have one question.
Meets over on Wheeler. We were planning an egg extravaganza event, egg hunt tomorrow. Last year, about 250 kids came out. If it gets to the point, from what I've heard, there's no restriction on flushing and bathroom usage at this time, but if it gets to that point, would there be any ways of supporting us with maybe 3 latrines and hand washing station or porta potties and hand washing station or anything like that?
I am unsure, but we will see what we can do to support that request.
Roger. Thank you, sir.
We'll talk right after this.
Okay,
I think
thank
we
you.
can get to there.
Thank you.
All right, thank you all. We appreciate your time and attention in this important matter. And again, we'll provide updates on social media. And if you have individual, unique circumstances that have concerns during this time, please reach out to your chain of command. This concludes today's town hall. Thank you.